Hi everyone! I'm back with the second part of this page where we will color the crocodiles. If you missed the first part, it's where we colored the water. I'll put a link to that video up here so you can easily find it. Now, the book we're coloring in today is called Meine Reise durch Afrika, and this book was released in the beginning of October. Grab yourselves a drink because we're in for a long one today. I'll be talking about different topics throughout this video, and maybe it's fun if I answer some of the top questions I get on my Instagram or YouTube videos, like a little Q&A. So as you can see, I started the crocodiles the same way as how I started coloring the water, and that's with my Winsor and Newton watercolors. I only used one color called Hooker's Green from this palette to cover up the first layer of our crocodiles. I want to address some tips for working with watercolors in coloring books. First of all, yes, my paper curls a little bit when I use watercolors, but don't worry because we can get rid of this in the next steps. Now, the first trick is to only use a small amount of water instead of lots. The second tip is to not cover the whole page with watercolors all at the same time, but work in pieces and then let it dry in between layers. Take this page as an example. I only used two colors for my first layer, and that's the blue for the water and a green for the crocodiles. And that's it. You have to let it dry first before adding more watercolors or colored pencils. Otherwise, it will damage the paper. After adding the watercolors and then letting it dry, we can add colored pencils on top to intensify the colors and flatten the page. If adding colored pencils wasn't enough to flatten the page again, then we can also fix the curled page by going over it with a flat iron or put some heavy books on top of it. When I use a flat iron to smooth out my paper, I always use a baking paper in between my finished coloring page and the flat iron to prevent any damage to the page or the colors. Okay, so I know a lot of people will ask me, how do you choose these colors? Why are you adding purple, or how do you even come up with the color purple? I mean, a crocodile always looks green, right? So I'll try to explain my thought process. I've been coloring since 2015 with some breaks in between, and I think that most of my coloring techniques came with time, experience, and a lot of trying out, but also failing. And I don't think we emphasize that last part enough because you only see the nice finished colorings online and not the ones that failed because of color combinations that didn't work out in the end. But okay, let's focus on the how for now. I've been coloring with only the primary color for an object for a long time. So for example, for this crocodile, I would only add different hues of one color. This means a lighter green for the highlights and a darker green for the shadows. And then the mid-tone would be a normal green. But then I started looking more at work from artists and I noticed one thing. An object is never one color only because of the reflections of light on the surrounding objects that bounces onto the object you're coloring. Now, for me, this didn't mean that I wanted to color more realistically, but I did want to challenge myself in adding more different colors into one object. In the beginning, I was only adding like tiny bits of other colors onto my main color, and you could barely see it. So after a while, I tried to be more bold with it, and now I'm at a stage where it's not even realistic anymore, but the gradients or the color combinations just look nice or different. I try to explore the boundaries of colors, and sometimes I overdo it, but that's okay, because with every coloring we learn. So there's no particular reason why I chose purple. It could have been orange, pink, or another color as long as it looks good with the green. I think my best advice is to pick two colors that you don't think match and try if they eventually do blend together well. I could give you some technicalities of the color wheel, but I barely use it myself. That's actually something that's on my to-do list, to use the color wheel more often. Now, I had a hard time blending the purple with the green, so another tip I can give you is if the two colors you chose don't blend together well, but you like the combination and you want to give it a further try, then find another, as I call it, in-between color So in order for me to keep the purple and the green, I added a light blue and light cobalt green to blend in between the greens and the purple. I hope this makes sense. And I'm not gonna lie, this part can be tricky, but I find that it's worth it. So hopefully I explained it a bit well and you could try this for yourself. So before I go to the next topic, I would like to ask you to please consider liking this video, leaving me a comment or subscribing to my channel if you like my content. This would help me a lot. Another great topic is creating depth. So I've already been talking about having different hues of one color to create lighter parts and shadows in your coloring. Now, what I've learned is to really go extreme with these two. So having a really dark green, almost black, for the shadows, and then using a white gel pen for highlights is the key to creating depth in your colorings. My best friend when it comes to coloring is a white gel pen. It's very important to place highlights and shadows if you want your colorings to look more alive and have this 3D effect. Maybe I can also talk a little bit about blending and layering, or at least the technique that I go for, because there are a lot of different techniques, and I think the important thing is that you find the technique that suits you the best. This can be different for everybody depending on, I don't know, how much pressure you put on your pencils or how much energy you can put into it or whatever. So because I use so many colors together in one part, I always build up my layers gradually. I start very light and then I add more layers until I get the desired look or brightness. Now, my blending method has developed and gotten better over the years, and depending on the colors I choose, I use different techniques. In the beginning, I just blended every color on top of each other. So for example, I went over the darkest green with my mid-tone green, and then with my lightest green over the darkest green and the mid-tone green. Now, this technique is okay when the three colors you're using are from the same color family. But as you can see here, I have purple, blue, greens and yellows that I'm using for the crocodile. So in order for them to stay vibrant, we have to think about the placement of the colors before we start coloring the whole crocodile green. So I just chose to place the purple at the mouth of the crocodile. I didn't overthink it, I just chose a spot to be honest. And then use a warm color for highlights, so the yellow on top. And then if you prefer, you can also use cold colors like blue for the shadows. But I just used some darker greens for the shadow and not per se blue tones. I don't go over the purple or the yellow with my greens, otherwise it will become muddy or it loses its vibrancy. I only blend the edges together where the green meets the blue and the blue meets the purple, or the green meets the yellow. This will create a nice gradient effect, and that's the look we want to achieve. And by the way, this may sound silly, but if you want to add shadows, I always try to keep my pencils sharp so that you can place your shadows very carefully and be precise, especially when you want to add some black here and there for extra depth. Keep your pencil sharp and add tiny bits. Another thing I like to play with is adding extra lines into the coloring where I see fit. This adds to the realness and depth of the page. For example, under the eye of the crocodile, I drew a line with my green so it looks like the crocodile's eye has a waterline. Is this necessary? No. Is it fun? Definitely. Okay, here I'm adding more highlights with my white Posca pen, but you will see a bit later in the video that I scraped it off again. Probably everybody can relate to this. We always want to keep adding things to our colorings and sometimes it's too much. And this was a case of going overboard with the highlights. And then for the eyes, I just looked up what a realistic crocodile's eyes look like and used these colors. So a bit of yellow and oranges, nothing special. Okay, that being said, phew, we made it through the first crocodile. Now onto the second one. It's actually the same as the first one. The only thing that I needed to add were some extra colors for those triangle thingies on his back. And because I was getting tired of coloring with pencils, I chose some Tombow markers for this so it goes quicker. But you can definitely use some pink pencils for this as well, it doesn't matter. I'm not sure what else I can talk about. So if you have any more questions or things you would like me to talk about, leave it below in the comments so I can come back to it in one of my next videos. I think I'm going to put the rest of the video with just background music. Yeah, and I know I hear you. Most people lose interest when it's just background music, but I'm really trying my best here to fill up as much of the video as possible with me talking. But it's not always easy to come up with things to say, especially when the video is almost 15 minutes long. But you know, this will come with time and practice. I mean, in my first video I didn't even dare to talk because I was just afraid to do it. Plus also I was just figuring out how all the editing and adding music or my voice to a video works. But look at me now talking in videos, so I'm sure I will get better at it. My videos will hopefully improve my teaching or like the chit chat. I mean, this is all new to me, so it's pretty crazy that I'm here today because I never thought I would dare to start a YouTube channel in the first place, to be honest. So yeah, I hope you get something out of watching me color these crocodiles. And if you are still here at the end and watched all the way through, then thank you so much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you in my next video. Have fun coloring! Thank you so much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you in my next video. Bye!